Part 6. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 51. 6 tentacles condensed with blood spread out from the blood ring on his left hand. The tentacles stretched out instantly, locking the body of the human-headed centipede. There was no place to borrow strength in the air, and it was immediately controlled. At this time, Lin Yi lowered his body and instantly arrived under the human-headed centipede. Stepping on the ground, the force rushed from the sole of his foot to his right fist, and a punch went up to the sky, hitting the lower jaw of the first head of the human-headed centipede. The cyan gold light wrapped around the fist and hit the human-headed centipede with a bang. Bang. With a huge muffled sound, the head of the human-headed centipede exploded directly. In a piece of cyan gold light, the head seemed to be burned, and it was charred. Be careful. With the warning from Sakuramiya Shirley, Lin Yi dodged the oncoming strong wind. But it was the tail of the human-headed centipede, and 2 sickle-like pincers passed by him. If he had been a step slower just now, he would have been pierced. At this time, he controlled a blood tentacle of the blood ring to grab the centipede's tail. Bang! With a muffled sound, the human-headed centipede was controlled again, but Lin Yi was not happy. Although the head of the human-headed centipede was shattered, the second head behind the head quickly grew teeth and turned into the head of the human-headed centipede. At this time, a fragrant wind flashed and reached the human-headed centipede temporarily trapped by the blood ring in one step. A sword light with faint colorful patterns flashed along the body structure of the centipede. It passed straight and cut the centipede from head to tail. Then a strange scene happened, and countless cracks appeared on the body of the human-headed centipede. Each crack was filled with colorful and dark breath. Sakuramiya Shirley's voice sounded, "Quickly retreat, it's going to explode." Lin Yi rushed into a ward next to him in a flash after hearing the words. Sakuramiya Shirley also rushed into another ward at the same time. Li Kaiyu and housekeeper Xiaoqiu quickly retreated more than 10 meters and huddled in the corner. Boom! With a violent muffled sound, the human-headed centipede exploded into countless pieces. Countless black air spread out in all directions, and the passage filled with black and red mist was submerged. An inexplicable force enveloped the passage, making it seem to be distorted. In the ward where Lin Yi was, he frowned at the entrance of the door. The red light flashed, and a black breath rushed in from outside the door. The mark in his body exuded an inexplicable gravitational force. Among these black air, a trace of special black air was attracted and rushed towards him like a swallow returning to its nest. On the second mark in the body, a handprint slowly lit up. It's an unexpected gain, it seems to be the same as my guess. The power of these strange phenomena is needed to light up the Yiling Jing. Suddenly, Lin Yi's face changed, and he felt a strange wave flashing outside. Turning around and stepping out of the ward door, his eyes sank, and he saw an empty corridor. Sure enough, we are being targeted. Lin Yi looked around, and the corridor extended to both ends, with the dark red light flashing continuously. Sakuramiya Shirley looked ugly, holding a soft sword in her hand, looking at the corridor without a single person. Li Kaiyu, housekeeper Xiaoqiu, and Lin Yi were all gone. Damn, this place is too weird. Where are you? Li Kaiyu's face was pale. She was alone in the corridor, looking at the corridors in front and behind with a chill all over her body. She turned her head almost every few seconds. She couldn't calm down at all. The terrifying environment, the dead silent corridor, only the sizzling sound of the lights flashing. The fear from the heart was impacting her heart, and as the fear continued to rise, she couldn't suppress it at all. This was an instinct. She didn't realize that a trace of strange black filament-like breath was slowly flowing into her body from all around. As she kept turning her head, she didn't notice at all that her neck was getting longer and longer, like the body of a snake. Her eyes were slowly bulging out, and her limbs were slowly becoming thinner. Where are you? Where are you? Saliva, snot, and tears were constantly flowing from her face. She was completely dominated by fear, and a wisp of black air was all over her body. Except for the clothes she was wearing and the weapons she was holding, she didn't look like much of a human being. Even her skin was covered with strange black lines. Hee hee. With a strange laugh, a phantom of a child appeared behind Li Qiuyu. He had a strange smile on his face, and his eyes were dark, reflecting Li Qiuyu's appearance. Her limbs were thin and long, supporting her body to crawl forward, and she had gradually turned into a strange crawling monster. Laughing, the phantom of the little boy gradually disappeared. On the other side, butler Xiaoqiu had a serious expression on his face. He was also alone, but he was very calm. In his hand appeared an exquisite talisman with complex patterns painted on it. He stuck the talisman directly to his chest. A circle of faint colorful light spread out from the talisman, quickly covering his whole body. A trace of almost invisible dense black aura was trying to rush into his body. But this trace of aura was blocked outside after the talisman was attached. In a dark corner behind Xiaoqiu, the illusory child appeared there. There was no smile on his face, but an unhappy expression rose instead. "Why don't you become a toy?" He seemed to be very puzzled as to why Xiaoqiu didn't change. The black breath from his hand had no effect. The dark eyes reflected Xiaoqiu's figure, which seemed very dazzling. At this time, a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "If you don't want to become a toy, then become a toy's toy." In the strange smile, several strange figures rushed out from the passage behind him. They were corpse monsters, and their whole bodies became very strange. The hands and feet were slender, the neck was slender, the body was swollen, and a pair of strange claws grew on both sides. Pale face, black eyes, and a huge mouth that almost opened to the cheeks. Inside were teeth that had completely turned into sharp shapes. There were 3 corpse mutant monsters in total, and they rushed madly towards Xiaoqiu in front of them. Xiaoqiu saw the corpse monsters behind him at the first time. The moment he saw them, he turned around and ran without any hesitation. He felt a huge danger. Once he was surrounded, he would definitely die. There was no suspense at all. This is the instinctive judgment of the creature, and he never doubts his instinct. "We must meet up with the others. Where are they?" Butler Xiaoqiu thought to himself. In this ever-changing corridor, Lin Yi walked slowly in the passage. He kept looking in front and behind to avoid sudden danger. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 52. It's been 5 minutes, and there's nothing here but a corridor. This passage may change, and there's no end at all. You can't go on. Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. Thinking of this, his eyes slowly glowed with the light of the true destiny. The blue light flickered in the depths of his pupils, and he looked carefully at this strange and weird fantasy. Slightly stunned, "So that's it?" Lin Yi fell into deep thought. With the explosion just now, Sakuramia Shirley's face showed a trace of worry, and she quickly returned to the corridor from the ward. The outside had already changed a lot, and there was no trace of any explosion. The empty corridor was dead silent. She held the soft sword in her hand, slowly falling, and a trace of essence circulated in the soft sword and palm. The soft sword became straight under the effect of the essence, and not a trace of power leaked out. Sakuramia Shirley walked slowly along the corridor, without making a sound, just quietly observing the surroundings. Suddenly, 4 corpse monsters rushed out of the surrounding wards. They have mutated, with long and thin limbs and strange sharp teeth growing in their mouths that are completely inconsistent with their body structure. Their bulging eyes looked at Sakuramia Shirley, making her feel cold all over, as if she was being stared at by some disgusting existence. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Strange cries came from their mouths, and then they quickly crawled towards Sakuramia Shirley. The corpse monsters, with their narrow and long limbs, quickly jumped up and climbed onto the walls and ceilings. They crawled towards Sakuramiya Shirley in a very strange state, surrounded by monsters, and Sakuramiya Shirley's face changed slightly. The corpse monsters were only more than 20 meters away from her, and they could reach her in a few seconds. Sakuramiya Shirley slightly pinched a seal with her left hand, and the next moment, a faint mist appeared around her. This mist contained a mysterious flower fragrance, which spread to the surroundings. Between breaths, the flower fragrance mist had enveloped the area within a radius of 3 meters. Sakuramiya Shirley also completely disappeared in the mist. Taoism, 100 flowers blooming. Sakuramiya Shirley mastered a Taoist method that blended the mist of the essence of hundreds of flowers, which could confuse the senses of all enemies who entered it. The 4 corpse monsters jumped down at this time and plunged into the mist. The moment they entered the mist, they smelled a faint fragrance. Their bodies stiffened, as if they were in some kind of doubt and lost their sense of the target. At this time, Sakuramiya Shirley's figure flashed from the mist to the bottom of one of the corpse monsters. The silent sword light flashed, and it went straight through the jaw of the corpse monster. The sword light trembled, half of the head was eliminated, and the corpse monster spurted out countless black blood and fell to the ground. The figure of Sakuramiya Shirley disappeared like a phantom at the moment it fell, making it impossible to find the exact position. The next moment, she appeared on the side of the second corpse monster. The sword light drew an arc, bloomed 5 sword flowers, and stabbed towards the opponent's head. But this time, a slender arm had blocked the sword light at some point. Puff! The sword light pierced into her arm, and Sakuramiya Shirley's face changed slightly. The hand holding the sword loosened, and the figure left the original place like an illusion, and a black shadow came to her previous position. It was a sharp thorn composed of sharp nails, which pierced through the afterimage left by Sakuramiya Shirley. That was close. Sakuramiya Shirley broke out in a cold sweat. At the moment of crisis just now, she used the flower dance body movement and avoided the fatal blow by a hair's breadth. Each of these corpse monsters can be compared to a warrior at the top level. In the fog, the 3 corpse monsters seemed to have adapted to the confusing power of the fog and completely recovered their instincts. Sakuramiya Shirley looked very ugly. How terrifying! These monsters can get rid of the influence of Taoism so easily. He looked at a corpse monster. Its left hand was covered with blood stains, and a sword was stuck on it. It was her weapon, the 100 Flowers spirit sword. I must get it back, otherwise I am no match. As soon as his body moved, he was about to perform dance among flowers again to forcibly take back his spiritual sword. At this time, the 3 corpse monsters in the mist suddenly began to inhale, and their chests swelled like blowing air. Sakuramiya Shirley immediately knew what they wanted to do. Her face changed, and she pounced on them. Roar! 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 The terrifying sound and airflow, accompanied by a piece of black liquid, sprayed out in front of the mist. Zzz. While still in mid-air, these black liquids and mist had a strong conflict. At this time, Sakuramiya Shirley rushed to the side of the corpse monster with the 100 Flowers spirit sword inserted in its arm. Whoosh! The slender fingers gently rested on the hilt of the sword and pulled it gently. The sword light exploded, and the corpse monster's arm was lifted up by the sword light of the sword, and it was directly broken into 2 pieces. At this time, the sword light flashed and chopped towards the back. Bang! With a metallic collision sound, the sharp nails just hit the 100 Flowers spirit sword in Sakuramiya Shirley's hand. The huge force came, and Sakuramiya Shirley's face changed. This force exceeded her limit. She didn't resist it, and her body split into 3 parts like a butterfly, floating in 3 directions. The 2 monsters on the left and right were just about to launch a siege. Seeing the 3 figures appear, they instinctively pounced on the nearest figure. The figure that the corpse monster with only one hand rushed towards was the real body of Sakuramiya Shirley. But at this time, the figure flashed and advanced instead of retreating. Sakuramiya surely was very bold and flashed in front of the broken-armed monster. The illusion of a flower blooming on the 100 Flowers spirit sword. Then a bright sword light flashed in the illusion and rushed into the mind of the broken-armed corpse monster. 100 Flowers sword chi, this is the Taoist sword technique that can directly kill the spirit condensed from the essence of the 100 flowers. A muffled sound in the dark, a cry of pain from the spirit. Squeak. Plop. The corpse monster fell to the ground and stopped moving. At this time, two strong winds attacked Sakuramiya surely from behind. The bloody smell came to her nose, that was the smell of the corpse, and Sakuramiya surely's heart shuddered. The next moment, she pounced forward, not daring to stay where she was. Boom! With a muffled sound, the place where she was standing just now was hit by two sharp claws. She did not look back at all, but a thick fog exploded all over her body. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and the fog full of flower fragrance enveloped the area of several meters. Sakuramiya surely's figure was submerged in an instant and disappeared. The two corpse monsters behind her rushed into the fog in an instant, and fell into a moment of confusion again. A ray of sword light has bloomed again, covering a corpse monster. Squeaky. The strange and shrill sound echoed in the corridor, and Sakuramiya surely's face turned slightly pale. She had consumed nearly half of her strength in the previous few fights. A figure appeared behind her, and Sakuramiya surely's face froze. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 53. As the flowers bloomed, she could grasp the enemy's position. This time she did not dodge. As if divided into three directions like a phantom. Three swords came out at the same time, stabbing at the corpse monster shrouded in fog. This sword was only sharp, but did not use the Taoist Beiwa sword energy. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Puff. A sword pierced into the center of the eyebrows, and the arm shook and pulled, and the head of the humanoid monster was cut in half. Plop. The last corpse monster fell to the ground, and Sakuramiya surely breathed a sigh of relief. But the next moment, three figures rushed into the thick fog and rushed directly towards her. Sakuramiya surely's face changed drastically, not good. Hair stood up all over her body, and she felt the danger of death. Killing four corpse monsters, her body's strength has been consumed by nearly half, and the four Taoist magics consumed a lot. Although she is a master of the human immortal way, she only has more energy and stronger power output compared to Chongding. There is no pressure in a one-on-one fight, but when facing siege, two fists cannot beat four hands. It is very powerful to have such a record. Reality is not a novel. When there are attacks from all sides, both hands are too busy, unless there is an insurmountable gap. Suddenly, three corpse monsters appeared, and she fell into great danger. Sakuramiya surely was cold all over, but she did not give up the hope of life. The breath of death enveloped her, and she smelled a wave of death. At the critical moment, the energy of the whole body flowed, and the next moment it was about to burst out with all her strength. But at this moment, an inexplicable hand grasped her right shoulder. She was shocked, her mind exploded directly, her whole body was shivering, and there was only one thought in her mind. It's over. It's me. The plain voice was like the sound of nature. Three figures rushed directly towards Sakuramiya surely, and a huge force burst out from Sakuramiya surely's shoulder. In an instant, Sakuramiya surely felt as if she had passed through a thin film and entered another world. The Taoist flowers around her bloomed and disappeared, and the three corpse monsters that broke into it also disappeared completely. She looked behind her and saw Linyi looking at her solemnly. The change in the environment made Sakuramiya surely very confused, and she didn't know what happened. What's going on? Looking at the other party's puzzled eyes, Lin Yi looked around. I don't know the details, but it should be some kind of power that isolates the space between us. In fact, I have always been near you, but you can't see me. You can't even touch me. This seems to be some kind of multi-layered space power. Sakuramiya surely took a breath when she heard it, the ability to control space. This weird illusion is too scary. We must leave immediately. Sakuramiya surely heard Lin Yi's words and immediately realized that this was not a place where they could stay for a long time. At this time, she looked at Lin Yi. Mr. Lin Yi, please find housekeeper Xiaoqiu and Li Kaiyu. I want to take them away. Lin Yi shook his head. I don't think it's necessary. Sakuramiya surely was stunned, and then looked at Lin Yi in confusion. What do you mean? First, there is something wrong with your housekeeper. He is in the same group with the god of death Li Huan. Second, Li Kaiyu has become a monster and there is no hope. How is it possible? Housekeeper Xiaoqiu and Li Huan are in the same group. What evidence do you have? What happened to Li Kaiyu? Sakuramiya surely looked serious. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and revealed a hint of coldness. After entering the sewer, I found some mysterious substances deliberately left on the road we walked. This substance was left by housekeeper Xiaoqiu. Just now I was able to see you and save you. I think you don't have to doubt my means. Sakuramiya surely looked very ugly when she heard this. Housekeeper Xiaoqiu was a confidant of her grandfather and had been caring for her since she was a child. Since her parents died, he has basically taken care of her. Now she heard from Lin Yi that the other party was actually in the same group as the god of death Li Huan. She understood the whole story almost instantly. The other party was in collusion with her uncle and wanted to harm her. Although she was extremely reluctant to believe this. But Lin Yi had no interest in her and had nothing to do with the housekeeper, so there was no need to lie to her. Besides, he had just encountered danger. If the other party had not saved her, she would probably have died. She instinctively chose to believe Lin Yi, but it was precisely because of belief that she felt heavy. Taking a deep breath, calming down from this shocking news, Sakuramiya surely looked at Lin Yi. To be honest, it's hard for me to believe it, but I can't take this risk now. Do you have a way to leave? She had already made a decision in her heart. Regardless of whether this was true or not, she no longer planned to look for housekeeper Xiaoqiu and Li Kaiyu. And Lin Yi said that Li Kaiyu had turned into a monster. Referring to the things she had just seen, Sakuramiya surely did not think that Lin Yi was lying to her. She couldn't afford to lose, the Sakuramiya family couldn't afford to lose, and she couldn't afford to lose her responsibility. Lin Yi nodded. I know how to leave. It's not advisable to stay here for long. Well, let's go. Sakuramiya surely looked calm, without any regret of being betrayed. Lin Yi glanced at her, turned around and walked in one direction, this way. At this time, the true destiny in his eyes opened up, and the spatial level of the strange illusion was clearly visible in his eyes. He saw the road they came from, where a wall appeared later. But in his eyes at this moment, it was a strange force, as black as ink, blocking their way. He walked in front, with a cyan gold light all over his body. His voice was low, follow me closely, my power has been consumed by nearly half, and we don't have much chance. Sakuramiya surely was startled when she heard this. Understood, I will be alert around. Swish. A sword light fell, ready to kill at any time. Lin Yi came to the wall and punched it. Bang. A huge muffled sound, a rich cyan gold light fell on the wall. A crack spread from the wall, and the next moment the wall shattered into countless black fragments, revealing a cave. In a flash, Lin Yi had already rushed in, and Sakuramiya surely followed closely. The two of them flew like two phantoms shuttling in the corridor. After a few vertical and horizontal movements, they came to the place where they turned in the corridor at the beginning. The two stepped into the corner and saw the dark door at the top of the corridor. But at this time, 5 strange corpse monsters appeared in front of them. All of them had thin limbs and hideous faces. And one of them made Sakura Miyasuli's body tremble slightly. Li Kaiyu was among them. At this time, her limbs were thin, and her 2 feet and 1 hand were hoeing the ground. She was holding the Bishuang sword in her right hand and waving it randomly. A hoarse and sharp voice sounded. "Where are you from? Come out from where you are." The strange and terrifying roar made people's scalps numb. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 54. Lin Yi said in a deep voice, "Get ready, we are going to rush over." Sakura Miya surely took a deep breath, clenched the sword in her hand, and abandoned all emotions in her eyes. Rumble. Just when the two were ready to take action, a roar came from the opposite passage. There seems to be something terrifying approaching here. At this time, crazy roars and huge vibrations came from behind the two people. Lin Yi and the two looked behind them, where a group of terrifying corpse monsters had mutated. They chased a figure and rushed towards the direction where the two of them were. Sakuragi Shirley's expression changed slightly when she saw the person coming. "It's Butler Xiaoqiu. Miss, help me quickly. These monsters are terrifying." Butler Xiaoqiu's face was covered with blood. He had obviously suffered some trauma, and it was on his head. A dozen corpse monsters followed him, only a few meters away. This was a precarious position. Seeing the behavior of Butler Xiaoqiu, Shirley Yinjiang said in a low voice, "Mr. Lin Yi, I will save him. After all, he has taken care of me for more than 10 years. I will save him even if I have this little affection. As for his betrayal of me, I will investigate after I get out. I need you to help me, as long as he doesn't mess around." Sakura Miya Shirley's words were decisive and full of firm will. The 100 Flowers spiritual sword in his hand dropped, and a faint mist enveloped it. In the next moment, countless mists had spread around. A 3-meter radius was shrouded, and Butler Xiaoqiu had already rushed into the mist. Swish swish. The sword light exploded, directly covering the back of Butler Xiaoqiu. Butler Xiaoqiu felt that the sense of crisis looming over his back had disappeared, and he breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Lin Yi appeared silently behind Sakura Gong Shirley. At the moment when the opponent strikes a sword with all his strength, the old strength is exhausted and the new strength is not yet born. He grabbed her shoulders, stepped on the ground, and instantly retreated. Then Lin Yi and Shirley Yinjiang had already caught up with Butler Xiaoqiu, who was staggering away. Shirley Sakuramiya's voice sounded, "Butler Xiaoqiu, we are going to rush out. Be prepared and follow us." A calm voice, but full of power, as if her words were unbreakable. Butler Xiaoqiu was stunned when he heard this, and then looked ahead, at the top of the opposite corridor. It was the strange illusion door they passed through when they arrived. There was a hint of joy in his eyes. He had been running for a long time while being chased by corpse monsters. In this place that was almost a maze, he felt that he would be consumed to death sooner or later. Coupled with several raids by corpse monsters, he had already suffered serious injuries. Now that he saw the door to the strange illusion, hope arose in his heart. In the next moment, Lin Yi and Sakura Gong Shirley had already rushed over, with astonishing speed. Butler Xiaoqiu's expression changed, and he quickly followed without saying a word. On the opposite side of the passage, a group of people wrapped in black smoke were rushing toward the exit. The person who came was none other than the god of death, Li Huan. His eyes were cold and he was holding an unknown object in his left hand, which seemed to be something like a book. Behind him, countless twisted mists of pitch-black smoke were grabbing at him crazily. Lin Yi and Sakura Shirley, who were rushing toward the exit, saw this scene, with a hint of horror in their eyes. The aura behind the god of death Li Huan was terrifying to the extreme, making them instinctively fearful. Both of them can feel that as long as they are involved in the darkness behind the other person, they will definitely die. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, and the flow of energy in his legs turned into Shenxin Qi. In an instant, his speed increased by 10%, directly surpassing Sakuramiya surely. At the moment of life and death, everyone depends on their ability. Within 3 seconds, he arrived in front of the completely alienated Li Qiuyu. Whoosh! The green-gold light all over his body flashed, his feet suddenly stepped on the ground, and he punched the sky. This blow hit mutant Li Qiuyu's abdomen. The terrifying power was like a cannonball. Her body was instantly shaken, and her slender upper body bent directly under the violent impact on her abdomen. At this time, Lin Yi did a somersault in the air and hit Li Qiuyu's bent head with a kick from top to bottom. All the huge power was poured into Li Qiuyu. Puff! With a soft sound, the back of her head exploded, and her entire head was blasted into the ground by Lin Yi's blow. At this time, Lin Yi used this reverse momentum to jump to the top of the 3-meter-high corridor. The dark and strange door to the illusion there would never change. Lin Yi was like a missile, hitting the door. At the same time, in the direction behind Li Qiuyu, the god of death Li Huan came quickly like a ghost. The dark mist enveloped him, and he had already reached a corpse monster not far behind Li Qiuyu. Like a shadow, he reached the opponent's back in a flash and stepped on the corpse monster's back. The terrifying power exploded, and the monster was directly blasted through the body. And with the help of this stepping force, he jumped up like a cannonball. He arrived first, and he and Lin Yi rushed towards the black door at the top of the corridor almost at the same time. In mid-air, Lin Yi had already noticed the fierce death god Li Huan. Narrowing his eyes, he could already sense a strange aura from the other party. It was the same aura as the mutated maid he killed first. The power of the foreign spiritual sutra in the body was condensed to the extreme, and the blue light was unleashed to the extreme. It even covered up the essence of the great power diamond sutra in his body. He punched out with a punch, and the green light burst out. At this time, the face of the death god Li Huan was full of cold and ferociousness, and he didn't take Lin Yi seriously at all. He could suppress a master of cultivation with a backhand. His left hand was still holding a book, and his right hand made a handprint. In an instant, countless black air gathered into a 1-meter knife light, sweeping towards Lin Yi's punch. His eyes were cold, as if he was looking at a bug that was trying to stop a car with his arms, and he could kill it with a casual hand. But the next moment, something horrified him happened. His Taoism, the death scythe, when it touched Lin Yi's punch, it actually collapsed like tofu dregs. The huge fist hit his face. He instinctively raised his left hand and blocked the fist. Bang! The face of the death god Li Huan changed. The power of Lin Yi's fist was so great that cracks appeared on the bones of his left hand in an instant. Instinctively, his left hand loosened, and a scene of him spitting blood happened. Lin Yi's right fist instantly grabbed the book that fell from his left hand. At the same time, with the help of the force of the collision, he directly hit the strange black door at the top of the corridor. Bang! With a muffled sound, the door opened directly. Pop! Lin Yi flipped in the air and landed steadily on the ground of laboratory number 5, with the black door of the strange illusion under his feet. Following closely below was Sakuramiya surely. Because of a mistake in the fight with Lin Yi, the death god Li Huan was hit back by him. The countless black mists and tentacles chasing him instantly engulfed him. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 55. Sakuramiya surely, who followed behind Lin Yi, also seized the opportunity under Lin Yi's series of tricks. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Seeing that she was about to follow him out of the black door of the strange illusion. But the housekeeper Xiaoqiu, who fell behind her, showed a fierce look in his eyes. He jumped up from behind Sakuramiya surely. He kicked Sakuramiya Shirley's back viciously, intending to use Sakuramiya Shirley as a stepping stone. The huge power gathered on this kick was enough to penetrate gold and split stone. Sakuramiya Shirley noticed something wrong the moment the housekeeper made a move. The attack from behind made her hair stand on end, and the danger of death loomed over her. As Lin Yi said, housekeeper Xiaoqiu had problems and wanted to kill her. His betrayal made Sakuramiya Shirley look cold. But she was not panicked. With the reminder from Lin Yi, she always maintained a high level of vigilance, otherwise she would not have noticed the problem immediately. Taoism, 100 flowers blooming. The next moment, her figure had blurred and turned into several phantoms. She became mysterious in mid-air. Butler Xiaoqiu stepped into the air and his face changed drastically, not good. As soon as he exclaimed, a huge force behind him hit his spine. Crack! With a crisp sound, Butler Xiaoqiu's face turned pale, full of despair. Then a terrifying force broke out, and his body suddenly crashed into the corridor. A figure stepped from behind him and turned into a shadow and rushed out of the black door of the strange illusion. At this time, the black fog and countless strange tentacles that engulfed the god of death Li Huan just happened to completely submerge the corridor below. Rushing out of the strange illusion black door, Sakuramiya Swili's voice had already sounded, "Go." Lin Yi heard the words and rushed towards the entrance of the number 5 laboratory. This gate had been broken open by the corpse monsters to create a huge hole. It made it easier for the two of them to escape. One in front and one behind, they pushed their speed to the extreme. They headed for the intersection of the 3 passages. At this time, a crazy howl sounded in the gate of the strange illusion. Roar! It was a crisp, but extremely resentful sound. Countless black fog and tentacles extended from the gate of the strange illusion and chased Lin Yi and the others. The black fog and countless tentacles chasing from behind were cold and murderous, and the hairs on their bodies stood up. Sakuramiya Shirley's voice was urgent, "We must get out of here quickly, this place is affected by the strange illusion. Something must be angry in the illusion. It must be caused by the death god Li Huan." Sakuramiya Shirley was very good at analysis and keenly noticed where the problem was. 10 seconds later, they had reached the intersection of the 3 forks. The wall that blocked their retreat just now was still there. Sakuramiya Shirley's face was a little ugly. "This must be made of illusionary power, we must break through it. We only have one chance." The biting cold behind him, black mist and hideous black tentacles were flashing. They were less than 10 meters away. They did not see that in this black mist, a hideous child phantom was flashing. Countless black tentacles extended from his back, and black mist also diffused from the tentacles. He seemed to be the source of all the strange phenomena in this illusion. He looked at Lin Yi in front of him with resentment, staring at the book in his hand, as if Lin Yi had taken away his most precious thing. At this time, Lin Yi was only a few steps away from the wall that cut off their retreat. His voice was low, "I can break this wall 100%, and behind it is the road we came from. This is a barrier made of pure power. But you have to help me guard the back." "Okay." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Sakuramiya Shirley's eyes lit up. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with green light, and the remaining spiritual waves in his body were less than 20%. This is the only chance. He took a deep breath, and the green light in his body shone brightly and merged into his fists. He took a step forward and punched out. The terrifying power blasted out wildly, hitting the wall. Lin Yi's The Book of the Strange Spirits seemed to have a natural restraint on the weird power and the dark power. With one punch, the wall was instantly annihilated into ashes and turned into countless black mist. The two rushed past, and in the black mist behind them, the phantom of the weird child had black eyes and roared angrily. This is his home court. The moment the opponent rushed out of the 3 forks, he lost the possibility of keeping the opponent here. My album. I will find you, ah. The weird, hoarse, and childish words rang in the ears of Lin Yi and Sakuramiya Shirley. The two instinctively felt cold in their hearts, as if they were locked by an inexplicable force. They didn't notice that two faint strange marks fell on them. These marks seemed to have no power, but they were firmly attached to their backs. Finally, the two came to the exit of this closed sewer, the platform of the sewage treatment center. At this time, their breath was weak, which was a state of consuming a lot of energy, especially Lin Yi, whose face was a little pale. Today's series of encounters almost exhausted all his strength. Not a single trace of the spiritual wave left in the foreign spiritual sutra was left, and he could see it in his own consciousness. The mark that represents the true destiny of Dija is dim and illusory, and the second mark that is condensing is equally dim. The essence of the mighty Diamond Sutra in his body is less than 10%, and now he can't beat even an ordinary chi-swallowing level warrior. Sakuramiya Shirley on the side was obviously much better. She took out a jade bottle at this time. 2 snow-white pills were poured out, exuding a strong floral fragrance. She handed a pill to Lin Yi. This is Beiwa pill, which can quickly restore energy. One is worth 10,000 imperial coins. Lin Yi took the Beiwa pill and swallowed it in one gulp. A floral fragrance filled the air from the body and quickly spread throughout the body. The mighty power circulated in the meridians, and he quickly ran the operation route of Aoki Kung, and the energy in his body quickly recovered. When he switched techniques, the damage to his meridians was also rapidly recovering. The true fate interpretation gave him the powerful ability to analyze all things, among which the peeping technique was a very practical additional ability. However, this thing has a flaw. Every time he uses other techniques, it will cause a certain degree of damage to his body. Just like on a computer, constantly switching between different systems, 1 or 2 is fine, but 3 or 4 will always have a certain impact on the hardware. This time he ran the Shenxin Qi several times, and now he ran the Aoki Kung Fu, which restores energy the fastest. There are already some scars on the meridians, but Beiwa pills are very powerful and are nourishing the damage on the meridians. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 56. At this time, Lin Yi's expression suddenly changed. In the passage behind the two of them, black mist surged, as if something was rushing out. Lin Yi's expression darkened. Hurry up, it's coming. The two have no idea what is chasing them, but they have only one choice. Regardless of the fact that the energy in their bodies has not yet fully recovered, the two people quickly rushed along the passage on the platform of the processing center towards the sewer exit. An icy roar sounded from the passage behind. The entire sewer seemed to be bustling with activity. Dozens of resentful spirits with resentment all over their bodies slowly floated out and stopped in front of them. They seemed to be controlled and rushed towards the two of them. Lin Yi's eyes flashed, dozens of talismans appeared in his hand, and the skills in his body were transformed into the Suppressing Spirit Sutra. A stream of light golden essence was injected into the talisman paper, like a goddess scattering flowers. Countless talismans were swept towards the approaching resentful spirits. Bang bang bang. There was an explosion in the void, and these resentful spirits were instantly hit by the talisman paper, and countless golden threads spread out from the talisman paper. Dozens of resentful spirits were tied up in the blink of an eye and unable to move. Ah! Kill kill kill! It hurts! Piercing screams erupted from these bound resentful spirits. But Lin Yi and Shirley Sakuragong ignored them, and after a few ups and downs, they reached the end of the iron banqiao of the sewage treatment center. The iron bridge was about 100 meters long, and at this time, several dark shadows appeared at the end. They bared their teeth and claws and rushed towards the two of them, and a wave of cold air enveloped them. Surely Sakuragong arrived first and dodged from behind Lin Yi to the front. The 100 flowers spirit sword in his hand flashed, and several sword flowers bloomed, creating a colorful sword light. Bang bang bang. These resentful spirits surrounded by resentment will be torn apart instantly by the sword energy on the sword flower whenever they are stabbed by the sword flower. It exploded like black fireworks. It seemed that Sakuramiya surely was venting her anger at this time. Several zone hung, and all the resentful spirits that stood in front of them were killed. Within 10 seconds, they rushed past. The two escaped from the dangerous central area of the sewage treatment platform. A few minutes later, at the end of the iron bridge, at the entrance to the closed sewer, a figure covered in thick black smoke came out. Apparently, it was Li Huan, the god of death, but his face looked a little ferocious at this time. His eyes were pale, but two black crosses stood erected in his eyes. He seemed to be no longer the original Li Huan. I will find you. No one can take my stuff. I'm going to kill you. Vaguely, there seemed to be another person looming under the face of the god of death, Li Huan. It was a face like a child's, full of resentment towards everything. Lin Yi and Shirley Sakuragong spent half an hour returning to the exit of the sewer system. It was already very dark at this time, and they had been inside for nearly 5 or 6 hours. Taking a deep breath, Sakuramiya Shirley looked ugly. This time, it could be said that the entire army was wiped out. All the mercenaries he recruited were destroyed, and even the housekeeper who had taken care of him for many years had malicious intentions. If Lin Yi hadn't helped her, she would have been buried in the sewer. Mr. Lin, thank you for your help this time. Lin Yi shook his head. You only need to pay the remaining half of the reward if you use money to help others eliminate disasters. Sakuramiya Shirley turned her head and looked at the deep sewer system behind her. She knew that a huge wave was about to break out. I don't know how many people will be involved in this turmoil. Let's go. Ring ring ring. The doorbell of the Wanshi house rang, and Brandy, who was dozing off, woke up instantly. Instinct cried, "Welcome. Store manager, it turns out to be you. I thought I had a customer." Seeing Lin Yi's appearance, Brandy relaxed. Toot toot. Outside, the sound of cars driving away sounded. Lin Yi glanced at the sleepy Brandy. It's almost time, let's close today. At night, Lin Yi sat behind the desk in his bedroom, reading a book in his hand. The book has about 5 pages. When opened, there are 3 pages with monsters drawn on them. After looking carefully, there were several twisted words written next to the pattern, which seemed to be the handwriting of a child. Bad doctor, good friend, dog. In the 3 pictures, the bad doctor is a strange human figure wearing a white coat, covered with pustules, and surrounded by black energy. Its face was also covered with pustules, and it looked extremely strange. Black smoke was leaking out of the pustules. Lin Yi's eyes mainly fell on that good friend, an existence he had seen before. In that weird Superman laboratory, the most powerful purple corpse monster forced them to enter the weird illusion. A good friend? In other words, the owner of this book knows this purple corpse monster. The owner of this book is an existence in a strange illusion, and he is not a human being. Lin Yi's eyes shone with the light of his true destiny. He could see clearly that this thing was filled with thick black smoke. To use Sakuramiya Shirley's words, this is a strange thing. Every weird thing can create a powerful being that transcends mortals. But that requires in-depth research on strange things, and then become a mysterious person who masters strange power. Then this book, no, or it is more appropriate to call it a picture book, as a strange item, what can it be used for? Lin Yi thought about it and injected a trace of spiritual waves into the strange book. The next moment, something amazing happened. He felt a feeling in his mind, as if he could summon the things in the book as long as he thought. After thinking about it, he summoned a monster called a dog. It was a wolf-like creature with 2 heads. At this time, the book in his hand emitted a black smoke, and gathered in front of Lin Yi into a huge two-headed hound that was 1.5 meters tall. It whimpered as soon as it appeared, and its eyes were filled with an inexplicable look, looking at Lin Yi with admiration. Just like an ordinary hound, it quickly stretched out its head and rubbed towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi immediately knew what the strange thing in his hand was for. "Good fellow, this is a strange thing of the seal summoning type. Together with my wailing ring and blood ring, this is my third strange thing. But the principles of these things are unknown, their abilities are strange, and they are related to strange phenomena. Maybe there will be trouble in the future." Lin Yi was worried when he thought of what Sakuramiya surely revealed about the mysterious people who mastered strange powers. It took an hour of experimentation for Lin Yi to fully understand the basic functions of this album. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 57. First of all, this thing seems to be able to seal things with strange powers. As long as you inject spiritual waves into the blank page and then print it on the strange object, you can seal the strange object in the blank space. After sealing, inject spiritual waves into the sealed page again to release the sealed object. And the released strange creatures will completely obey the holder of the album. During the experiment, Lin Yi sealed both the blood ring and the wailing ring. However, after the strange objects are released, they will not be affected by the album and need to be sealed again. Interesting, this thing can be used specifically to store strange beings, and strange beings can be used as cannon fodder. After discovering the function of this book, Lin Yi has thought of many uses for this thing. This album has a total of 5 pages, and it looks like an album used for painting. Lin Yi inserted it into his bookshelf, which was not conspicuous. No one knew that this thing would be a strange item. Then he took out his incident book and began to record this case. Case number 19. Time, January 26, 2020, Red Lotus Calendar. Location, Red Lotus City Sewer. Event, Weird Illusion. The task issued by Sakura Palace Shirley, the eldest granddaughter of the Sakura Palace family in Red Lotus City, was to deal with the case of missing workers in the sewer sewage treatment center. After going deep into the scene, the Superman laboratory and the weird illusion hidden in the laboratory were discovered. 3 mercenaries died, and the housekeeper Xiaoqiu had bad intentions and was injured by Sakura Palace Shirley. He stayed in the weird illusion and was presumed dead. The god of death Li Huan was sniped by me and also fell into it. It was presumed to be dead. A weird item album was seized, which had the ability to seal weird existence and weird items. After recording this case, Lin Yi nodded with satisfaction. Closing the incident book, Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. I don't know how things will develop next. Weird illusion, this place may attract many people. At night, Red Lotus City was in a quiet place. In a huge mansion in the southern area of Honglian City, Sakuramiya Shirley appeared in a bedroom with an expressionless face. This is her boudoir, which is full of luxurious and classical furniture. A photo hung on the wall, showing a family of 3 with a smile on their faces. A middle-aged man and a graceful middle-aged woman, and between them is a little girl of about 14 years old. The eyebrows and eyes are exactly the same as Sakuramiya Shirley. Sakuramiya Shirley looked at the photo, her back straight, and a complicated look in her eyes. Dad, Mom, I almost couldn't come back this time. Butler Xiaoqiu has a problem. In the past, besides Grandpa, I had someone to talk to. Unfortunately, now I can only rely on myself. Don't worry, I will protect the glory of the Sakuramiya family, and no one can take away what belongs to you. With an unprecedented sharp look in her eyes, Sakuramiya Shirley left her bedroom and walked towards another part of the mansion. There is the bedroom of Sakuramiya Jixia, the current helmsman of the Sakuramiya family. Outside the door of Sakuramiya Jixia, a maid in her 70s looked at Sakuramiya Shirley with a hint of surprise. Miss, it's so late, Are you looking for the master? Sakuramiya surely looked at the maid, her expression slightly relaxed. Yes, maid Talisa. The master has already gone to bed. This is a very important matter. Do I have to disturb the master? Facing maid Talisa, Sakuramiya surely maintained enough respect. This is the maid who has followed my grandfather all his life and is absolutely trusted by my grandfather. And she herself is also an unfathomable person. Since my grandfather was young, countless people who wanted to assassinate him have been defeated by maid Talisa. A person who has mastered the weird power. Yes, this is a very important matter, and it may even trigger a war on the weird side. Talisha just nodded when she heard the words. Her face was very calm, as if the war on the weird side could not arouse her emotions at all. Then please wait a moment, young lady. I'll go ask the master. The Sakuramiya family has strict rules, and even the eldest lady, Sakuramiya surely, must abide by them. Talisa pushed open the door behind her, entered the bedroom, and then closed the door again. Sakuramiya surely waited outside, her face calm, and no joy or anger could be seen. A few minutes later, the door of the room opened, and Talisa stood behind the door. She was dressed in a grey and black maid outfit, very solemn, and slowly made way. The master has gotten up, young lady, please come in. Thank you, maid Talisa. Said, Sakuramiya surely walked into the room, her eyes fell on the sofa, where Sakuramiya Jixia, who was wearing a black pajamas, was looking at him. He had already lit his pipe and took a deep breath. 2 streams of white smoke slowly floated out of his nose. Sit down, come to see grandpa so late, what's the matter? Sakuramiya Jixia, an old man over 80 years old, but he looked healthy. He experienced the pain of losing his son, the grief of seeing his son die, and the grief of his wife's death. This old man still lives stubbornly in this world. Sakuramiya surely was wearing a ladylike white dress, dignified and elegant. She walked into the room and sat on the sofa opposite Sakuramiya Jixia. I have something important to report to Grandpa. Sakuragong Jixia raised an eyebrow. Did your mission fail? Yes, Sakuramiya surely didn't hide anything. Is Xiaoqiu trapped there too? Yinggong Jixia seemed to have gotten the news. His eyes were a little wandering, as if he thought that there was one less old man he knew. Yes, I left him there because he betrayed me. Yinggong Jixia was slightly startled when he heard this. It must be your uncle. Surely Sakuramiya didn't speak, which was regarded as acquiescence. What I say is true to my word. Since you have failed, the position of the head of the family will no longer be yours. There was a hint of disappointment in Yinggong Jixia's eyes. His heir, even in the most unfavorable situation, must have the ability to reverse everything. Otherwise, he would not be qualified to receive the huge power of the Sakuramiya family. Sakuramiya surely's expression did not change when she heard this. I did not fail. Yinggong Jixia raised his eyebrows and looked at her. How to say it? I have identified the cause of the problem at the wastewater treatment center. The Superman laboratory during the war years was located at the location of the sewage treatment center. Inside, a strange illusion appeared at some point. The problem this time lies in that weird illusion. I believe that as long as this news is leaked, it will soon attract the attention of various forces. When they take action, the matter at the sewage treatment center will naturally be solved. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 58. I can still get the job done, I just don't have to do it myself. A smile appeared on Yinggongji's face. It's a good idea to use your strength to gain strength. Your mission is half completed, now it's up to your uncle. You go make arrangements. Surely Sakuramiya nodded, turned, and left, with a cold light in her eyes. From now on, the struggle between the Sakuramiya family will become more intense. I'll get it done before you know it, my good uncle. That night, A piece of news quickly spread through secret channels. The Superman laboratory left over from the war years appeared, and a strange illusion appeared inside. As soon as this news appeared, many forces were shocked. Financial groups, families, and various mysterious organizations quickly came to Red Lotus City. There was chaos in the Imperial Intelligence Agency, the Security Bureau. Bai K, the director of the Security Bureau, is a 50-year-old bald man with a big belly. At this time, he was sweating profusely and looked nervous. In front of him, all the major officials from the Security Bureau were present. His deputy, Lang Xianing, the most prestigious man in the Security Bureau, sat under him. Damn it, Superman Laboratory, who leaked this information? There are also weird illusions. Is this going to directly trigger a war? Immediately dispatch all agents from the Security Bureau, contact the Imperial City Police Station, and keep them under my constant attention. Inform the men in black in the Empire and they will monitor all the powerful people who enter Red Lotus City. Starting tonight, no one will be allowed to disrupt the order of Red Lotus City. Mysterious Fantasy Land, the higher-ups have sent a few experts there, we just need to do our best to maintain law and order. Don't interfere with anything else, do you understand? A trace of anger flashed across Bai K's face. He had been the intelligence chief for decades. Everyone understood his expression and could never disobey him. In Red Lotus City, there is a small single-family building on the right side of the Sakura-no-miya family's residence. At this time, Sakuramiya Shirley's uncle, Sakuramiya Zangxiu, was listening to a report from one of his subordinates. This is a heroic man who looks only 30 years old, but his actual age is already 40. His skin was smooth, a faint essence was flowing in his body, and a breathtaking aura was revealed to the outside. This is a martial arts master who will definitely not be weaker than Shirley Sakura-no-miya, or even stronger. He was lying on a recliner, drinking a cup of soothing tea in his hand, feeling very comfortable. In front of him, a man with a mustache and a butler appearance was reporting something to him. His voice was deep, and he exuded a sense of competence and shrewdness. A weird illusion appeared at the location of the sewage treatment center, the Superman laboratory during the war years. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes, obviously surprised by the news. Frowning, he already understood what was going on. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. What a trick! It seems that I really underestimated my good niece. Xiaoqiu and the god of death, Li Huan, are both useless. They can't even deal with a little girl together. The mustachioed man on the side said in a low voice, it's not without gain this time. The mercenary group next to the young lady was eliminated, and one of her arms was broken. Xiaoqiu has gone too. She is now alone. Second Master's mission was successfully completed this time, and even the commission was saved. Next time when Master tests me again, Second Master's chance of winning will be even greater. As long as she is weakened step by step, the young lady will not be the match for the Second Master after all. This butler's name is Bai Yuzheng, and he is Yinjiang Zhangxiu's right-hand man. Many things were left to him to handle, including the matter of the god of death Li Huan and butler Xiaoqiu, which he arranged by himself. Although it failed in the end, the result was not too bad. After analyzing everything, it will be much easier to solve it next time. You're quite good. You still have such luck. It seems I can only wait until next time to defeat you completely. But the weird illusion, you can't just look at it, it's a good thing. Sakuragi Zhangxiu tapped the armrest of the lounge chair with her index finger and fell into thinking. In Red Lotus City, in a mysterious darkness, several figures appeared here. Each of them was filled with a strong and strange aura, and they were all dressed in black robes, with half of their faces exposed. There is a black mask on the upper half of the face, with numbers written in the middle of the mask. A strange illusion appears in Red Lotus City. According to the investigation team's investigation, it is the lowest level for strange illusion. The head nurse asked number 5 to take action to obtain the core weird objects in the weird illusion as much as possible. But even if you can't get it, you can't let white gloves get it. Among the several men in black robes, the one with one written on his mask whispered. Number 5 seemed to be a woman, with long hair hanging down from her black robe. Her eyes were deep, and a little black flame was burning. These are some traces of mastering the strange power. Her voice was clear and low. Yes, I will take action, but White Gloves and the Weird Association have already mobilized the nearest masters. Both Mo Bai and Tai Chin Lun are not simple characters. White Gloves and the Weird Association are also among the best of their generation. I may not be able to suppress it. In the newly rising cultivation path, Lejia Liquiyang, who is among the top 10 masters, is in the imperial capital. He will definitely take action. The empire has 13 troops of men in black, and the other 10 troops guarding various places do not count. The Blood, Baron, and Death tribes guard the imperial capital. The Wilderness Division and the Death Division are guarding important places and will not take action. The captain of the Blood Division is not in the imperial capital because of something. Deputy Minister Bai Minjia will definitely intervene in this matter. My chances of winning are less than 30%. Please tell the head nurse about this. Number 1 looked at the black-robed woman. Number 5, the head nurse naturally knows your situation, so she just asked you to take action. That's fine. Number 5 replied lightly, and quietly disappeared into the darkness. At this time, the other 4 saw that number 5 disappeared, and they also disappeared into the darkness. Number 5's figure passed through an underground passage and came to a small courtyard. She slowly took off her mask, and it turned out to be the mysterious woman who had fought with Lin Yi in the Hongliang mansion. Level 4 Strange Illusion? Although it is the lowest level, the degree of danger is enough to make the strong man at the controller level fall. Be more careful and make more preparations. Turned and walked into the open door of the small building in the courtyard and disappeared into the darkness. There is an underground base under the Hellwine on Lotus Street in the imperial capital. At the deepest part of the base, there was a room with walls and ceiling painted blood red. At this time, several men in black were resting in the hall of this room. They looked different, but each of them exuded a powerful aura, at least a martial arts aura of the top level. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 59. The blood is majestic and the body is full of evil spirits. He is obviously proficient in the martial arts of killing. At this time, a man with short red hair walked out of the passage on the side of the hall. Gather, an indifferent voice sounded. The 5 people resting in the hall jumped up from the sofa. Swish swish. There was a loud sound in the air, and they gathered in front of the short-haired man. 5 people lined up. Huang Yiming, here. Li Changhe, arrived. Qianbei, here. Huafeng, here. Tang Chun, here. The 5 people stood with their hands behind their backs, standing in standard postures, and an iron-blooded aura spread out. The 5 people have different appearances, but each one is filled with a fierce aura. Tomorrow, the Imperial Capital Sewer Treatment Center will deal with the Level 4 Strange Illusion. Yes, the 5 people said in unison, as if they were one person. White Gloves, hospitals, weird associations, and masters on martial arts lists will all take action. But in the 4th level weird illusion, they won't send 2 strong experts. Strive to capture the core strange objects in the strange illusion. The Security Bureau will cooperate with us. Go get ready and set off at dawn tomorrow. Yes, Vice Captain. Seeing Wudeo quickly leaving, Bai Yuming, the deputy captain of the blood department, looked at a document in his hand with cold eyes. There was a name and information on it, and it was Lin Yi. People who are a little bit interesting can escape from the weird illusion. Looking carefully, Lin Yi's appearance and various information were clearly visible on the document. Early the next morning, the entire Honglian city looked very strange. There were many sharp-eyed people on the street. Wearing various costumes, they wandered the streets. He stared at the various passers-by on the road, seeming to be wary of something. These people's waists are slightly bulging, obviously they are armed, and they are all somewhat burly, and they are Lianjiazi who have a stable lower body. These are all people from the Security Bureau. They are distributed throughout Honglian City as plainclothes, alert to dangers that may arise at any time. At the same time, several waves of people appeared one after another in the sewers of Red Lotus City, heading towards the depths. In addition to the well-known big forces, there are also some hidden forces who want to fish in troubled waters and are also moving towards the weird illusion of Honglian City's sewage treatment center. These people either wear masks or cover their faces, and they almost don't want others to see their origins. Some people were even shrouded in a distorted light, which was obviously caused by some kind of strange object or technique. Lin Yi didn't know this at this time. He was entertaining a guest. Shirley Sakuramiya appeared in the master house wearing a black dress and black high heels. At this time, she held a square wooden box in her hand and placed it in front of Lin Yi. This is the second half of the powerful Vajra seal. This seal was found from the ruins of an ancient abandoned temple more than 100 years ago. Among the things unearthed at that time, there was a complete set of cultivation methods called Vajra Zenwei. According to the information I know, a chaos and war broke out at that time in order to snatch this Vajra Zenwei. During the war, Vajra Zenwei was divided into many parts, and then fell into the hands of various forces. Among them, the Dajara Sutra is the most widely circulated. Because it is the foundation, it was the first to be circulated. This Daiti Vajra seal is the next method of Daiti Vajra Sutra. However, my powerful Vajra seal technique is not complete. It is only 1/3. It can only allow you to cultivate to the first level of human immortality. Lin Yi was slightly startled when he heard this, human immortal way? Is this the realm of martial arts? Shirley Sakuramiya nodded, yes, you also know that the emergence of spiritual energy has brought martial arts back into the sight of mankind. So in the past 3 years, countless groups, forces, and even empires have begun to study martial arts. According to various data, what can be known so far is that there are several major realms in martial arts. Mortals swallow air, inert themselves, and reach the top. Being able to reach the top is already the limit of mortals. At this stage, the human body's potential has basically been developed to its limit, and there is no way forward. The next step is to seek strength from the outside world. That is, external energy. Before the world changes, external energy cannot be absorbed. Climbing to the top is the limit of martial arts. And the summit push at that time couldn't absorb external energy, and it was almost impossible to convert it into essence. Shirley Sakuragong seemed to have opened up a chat box, giving Lin Yi some popular science. The difference between a top-charging warrior and a body-filling warrior is only in spiritual induction. For 2,000 years, very few people have been able to break this limit. Even if you master weird objects and gain weird power, you can't improve your martial arts cultivation. For 2,000 years, reaching the summit has been almost the pinnacle for mortals. There are only 3 masters of human immortality above this level. Strange power is the strongest combat power of human beings. It wasn't until the world changed 3 years ago that a large number of people broke through the limits of the mortal world and entered the level of human immortality. Martial arts did not receive attention. Various martial arts techniques that were considered imaginary in the past have been picked up again and research has begun. Lin Yi suddenly realized after listening to Sakuragong Shirley's popular science, so that's it, that means martial arts is currently revitalized. Nodding, Surely Sakuramiya said, yes, you have to practice this powerful diamond seal technique carefully. This is a rare complete set of techniques, but you need to find the rest by yourself. Lin Yi looked at Shirley Sakuramiya, who was wearing light makeup. Her calm face could not conceal her stunning beauty. Smiling slightly, thank you for the popular science. There is no need for you to tell me this. You are a powerful person. I may ask you for help in the future. This is my kindness. With a solemn expression on her face, Shirley Sakura looked at Lin Yi and explained calmly. It's also a little compensation. My uncle may send people to trouble you. Lin Yi raised his eyebrows when he heard this, because you and I came out alive. That's right, so you have to be careful. My uncle Sakuragi Zangxue has 2 right-hand men. His great butler Bai Yuzheng has cultivated the blood demon hand and has reached the first-level human immortal spiritual pool. The number 1 general under his command is Wu Shui. He practices bloodless swordsmanship and is also a master of the first-level human immortal spirit pool. If either of these 2 people takes action, you will almost certainly die. Sakura Gong Shirley said to Lin Yuda solemnly, so you must be careful recently and don't leave Red Lotus City at will. Be vigilant at all times at night and make a big noise immediately when in danger. The men in black from the Empire will come immediately. Man in black, Lin Yi was a little confused. That is the Empire's organization that specializes in managing strange events and martial arts battles. It is very powerful. They have all kinds of privileges and are strong men who have experienced killing. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 60. They are proficient in all kinds of hot weapons, and with martial arts skills, they are extremely powerful and are the main force against the strange side. So you must not offend them casually. Lin Yi nodded and said, thank you for your reminder. Sakuramiya surely smiled faintly, you're welcome, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. After that, she got up and left. Ringing ringing. Accompanied by the pleasant sound of the welcome bell, she disappeared from Lin Yi's sight. Lin Yi showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth, kill me, just in time to try the power of the summoning album. Brandy on the side looked at Sakuramiya Shirley who was leaving, his eyes wide open. Quietly came to the other side, boss, when did you have such a good relationship with Sakuramiya Shirley? Looking at Brandy who looked gossipy and had an adulterous look, Lin Yi's mouth twitched. Go pack up your things, don't gossip every day, be careful I'll beat you. Lin Yi waved his hand as if he was going to hit Brandy. Brandy was so scared that he ran into the bar and buried his head in washing dishes. Tisk. Looking at the coward Brandy with disdain, Lin Yi picked up half of the Vajra seal and walked towards his room. It was already noon, and guests were coming one after another. In the bedroom, Lin Yi looked at the 2 broken scriptures on the table, and a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. First, he used transparent tape to glue the scriptures page by page, and then began to read. The text of the scriptures is not the current text, but the ancient text. When Lin Yi was studying the Vajra Sutra before, the old man once told him that this was a martial art related to a kind of existence called Buddha. He had collected knowledge in this area, including a dictionary comparing Sanskrit and the lotus text currently used in the Red Lotus realm. Lin Yi took out the dictionary and began to translate word by word, and soon he got a complete lotus text. However, looking at the content of the scripture, he couldn't help frowning. There were many special and obscure Sanskrit words, which seemed to be some kind of proper nouns. He had never heard of them and could not translate them. Just then, Brandy suddenly knocked on his door. Frowning, Lin Yi said in a slightly low voice, "What's the matter?" Brandy said in a strange voice, "Miss Willie sent you something." Something, Lin Yi was puzzled, not knowing what Sakuramiya Willie sent him. "Bring it in." Brandy pushed the door open with a strange smile on his face. "Boss, it seems that Miss Willie is very interested in you." You have to work hard. When you become the son-in-law of the Sakuramiya family, we will have a good life. Looking at Brandy's radiant smile, Lin Yi's mouth twitched. Get out of here, you are just talking nonsense. Bring the thing here, pretending to pick up a book on the table and throwing it at Brandy. Brandy was so scared that he quickly put down the thing in his hand and ran out. But he didn't forget to close the door before leaving. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of the wooden door colliding, the room became quiet again. This guy deserves to be punished, Lin Yi's mouth twitched. He looked at the things left by Brandy, a beautiful box. He frowned, opened it and relaxed his brows. You are thoughtful and solved my urgent need. Inside was a thick book, with the cover saying detailed explanation of the relationship between Sanskrit * lotus text and martial arts, Imperial Martial Arts Research Institute. Good stuff. Sakuramiya surely? I'll remember this favor. Faced with Sakuramiya Shirley's thoughtful service, Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh and accepted the other party's favor. In theory, their transaction has been completed, and Sakuramiya Shirley has no need to ask about what will happen next. But she did it perfectly, and didn't let Lin Yi do useless work and spend energy to find various scriptures and information. This was a gentle rain, and the time was just right, just when Lin Yi felt the ruthlessness. This calculation ability is also amazing. After seeing Sakuramiya Shirley's methods, Lin Yi was very willing to establish friendship with this Miss Sakuramiya Shirley. With the comparison, Lin Yi began to analyze the content of this scripture. Sometimes he was beaming with joy, and sometimes he suddenly realized something. It seemed that he benefited a lot. Time flew by and it was night. Lin Yi was completely immersed in the interpretation and couldn't extricate himself. At this time, deep in the sewers of Honglian City, where the Superman laboratory was located, it had fallen into a chaotic battle. One after another, powerful figures kept colliding with each other, and various strange powers flashed. Black flames, black ice, whizzing wind, and sword lights of various colors kept exploding in the narrow space. More than a dozen figures fought in a group here. And this is still outside the gate of the weird illusion. Inside the weird illusion, more people were attacking each other, and the entire illusion was shaken under the huge force. Chaos and fighting were going on silently, without nonsense, only the collision of power. In the passages and rooms, some weird and powerful people were fighting fiercely with various mutated corpse monsters. Puff. These people are very powerful, and each of them possesses amazing power. The mutated corpse monsters are like lambs to be slaughtered, with no resistance in front of them. Every time a mutated corpse monster is killed, these rooms or passages will tremble slowly. It seems that the strange illusion has suffered some kind of damage. At this time, in the depths of the strange illusion, a virtual child's eyes were filled with black smoke and resentment. He held a Rubik's Cube in his hand, and every module of the Rubik's Cube was shaking. It seemed that some force was impacting the Rubik's Cube, as if it was going to tear the Rubik's Cube apart. The virtual child's face showed anger. You are all bad people, bad people. But it had no way, there were too many people, and some of them even made it feel scared. Come back quickly. A low voice came out of his mouth, like the low hum of the devil in hell. At this time, in the sewer passage, a figure wrapped in black smoke was approaching here at lightning speed. The god of death Li Huan, his eyes were deep, and the black cross was flashing. He held a handprint in his hand, and anyone who obstructed him would be attacked by 2 death sickles. The spell was extremely powerful. Once hit, it would be blown away or split in half immediately. In just a few minutes, he had passed the battlefield outside Superman's laboratory and rushed into the strange illusion. He rushed straight to the center of the illusion, where the strange existence that controlled him, the illusory child, was. At this time, he had just passed through a corridor and blasted away an intruder who blocked his way. His appearance quickly attracted the attention of people who were searching in the same passage. One of them was covered with a layer of faint golden light, and his skin looked as if it was cast in gold. Hey, the Death Sickle, from the Death Sutra, the Eye of Death Li Huan. Why is he here? A man next to him holding a silver sword looked at him. What's wrong, Li Kuyang, what did you find?